Primal Chaos.
Hey guys, Primal Chaos here. Welcome to the channel. So my first and pretty much only experience with Sleep Token has been the first two singles that I've done on this channel off the new album, which is Chokehold and The Summoning, both of which I found to be really, interestingly diverse, and they had a lot of vibe to them. Like there's this intangible vibe that you can't sort of classify it all that easily. And to me, that's super interesting. As many people who watch my channel a lot would know that, like, for me, the biggest enemy of music is genre. That might be too harsh a way of describing it, but I feel like sometimes the constraints of very specific genres, particularly in metal, tend to inhibit creativity. It feels like a lot of times acts will try to push their material up to a point where they fit amongst the zeitgeist of their particular niche, but they don't often explore pushing beyond that, or being a little bit more eclectic with their choices. There's plenty of bands that do, but I feel like there's a non-insignificant proportion of every genre where the artists are happy to just sit amongst the crowd and be as good as everyone else without sort of like being fundamentally more creative and different and experimental, right? Sleep Token, and again, I still consider myself an outsider of the metal genre looking in. So there's probably plenty of examples of this kind of thing within sort of like this sort of genre. And even subgenres of metal, ambient metal sort of genres and things like that, where this kind of thing is par for the course. But for me personally, this is kind of the first time that I can think of, that I've really stumbled across this kind of sort of vibey, ambient kind of metal, that still has a certain level of pop sensibility to it. There's some, in the composition of it, there's a little bit of, there's enough of a hook, to sort of draw you in as a layperson or as a casual listener. And then, they've also got the stuff in there that sort of attracts probably more hardened and a little bit sort of, worn out sort of metal listeners as well. People who've seen it all before. And that to me explains why Sleep Token, at least in this album, I'm aware that they've got previous material. In this album, it's just sort of captured everybody's imagination, and they've sort of jumped to the top of the most talked about sort of list, even without having released the entire album, which has now changed. The album's out. So, Chokehold is a banger. I love listening to that. And The Summoning is just one of those songs I can listen to, and every time I hear it, I can hear something different and something new. And so, that makes them an ideal band for reactions, right? Although sometimes I tend to watch them back and go, oof, I missed that, and I missed this, and I missed this, and I can't believe I didn't notice this. I made some bold claims about, I feel like there's more than one singer before I knew sort of like the lay of the land and things like that. So anyway, let's dive right into this one. Take Me Back to Eden. I've got no idea what this is going to sound like. It could be in between. It could be a completely different structural thing or tonality or anything. I wouldn't be surprised with these guys. Their sound is very diverse. Before we jump right in, though, I'd just like to say this video is brought to you in part today by Enchroma. Enchroma make glasses for colorblind people like myself. So if you or anyone you know is colorblind, click the link in the description. It'll take you to their website where you can get a free eye test, find out if you have a deficiency, and if so, if there's any kind of corrective lenses that they sell that can help you see the world a little bit more like everybody else. I wear mine every day. I love them, and I feel like they've fundamentally reshaped my relationship with color. And so I'm a big supporter of them. But let's jump right into the reaction. Here we go. Sleep Token, Take Me Back to Eden. Here we go. It's interesting. So there's all these nature sounds like bird noises and stuff, but they're all synthesized. It's not real sounds. At first you think, oh, they've just used samples of nature. But it's not. They're all synths. And it reminds me a lot of when I did Echoes by Pink Floyd. And they had the bird, like the seagull sort of bird sounds. I'm just going to stop before I talk over something. And again, that's exactly what I'm talking about with innovation and doing something different, right? It's taking something that they could have easily just taken nature sounds from a sample library and stuck it on there. But they've gone to the extra effort of simulating that to sort of be more in line with the concept of the way I see them anyway, as the concept of their band. There's kind of like this glitchy sort of digital and yet somehow still very organic flow to everything, and that's just a perfect example there before the song even starts. Just going to jump back here. So still trying to decide if that's a guitar or a really reverby piano. Almost sounds like you hear the hammers striking the strings.
I dream in phosphorescence, bleed through spaces, see you drifting past the fall, but no one told you where to go. We dive through crystal vortex, perfect oceans, but no one told me not to breathe. And now the weightlessness recedes.
Okay, before we go much further, I just want to talk about everything so far. There's just so much to talk about. First of all, like when I was talking about ambience or the ambient sort of sound, a lot of that comes from being spatial, making you feel like you're in an environment, right? And so as that slowly became more and more layered, you had this, this beautiful, lush ambient reverb. Like I said, I'm not sure if that initial sort of lower note sort of melody they were playing was a piano or a guitar. It's hard to tell. It could be a clean tone guitar, but either way, it's saturated in reverb. So it almost sounds like it's being played from another room, And then the vocal comes in again. That's lush as well, but very intimate. Like he's really close to the mic, and and then throughout you've got the bird sounds and stuff like that. And if you close your eyes, you just feel like you're in this environment of just sound. It's almost warm and comforting, right? You can feel like you're almost bathing in this weird, like atmospheric saturation of just, lusciousness, right? And if you can't hear that, get better headphones or listen to it on really good speakers, because I feel like I'm there and I feel like it's like inside me, right? And that's so great. The other thing I want to talk about is Vessel's voice. And I'm sure a million other reactors have talked about this, but there's a certain element in his delivery where it's super, I'm using the word lazy, but I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I mean it in the sense of it's part of the character of the voice, the way he sort of into notes, there's just such an organic authenticity to it. He's not putting on a show. He's just it's almost like he's expelling the sentiment out through the voice, rather than, here's the melody I'm going to sing, here's the lyrics I'm going to sing, and I'm going to get it right. It's just like pitch and all that sort of stuff doesn't matter. Not that he's singing out of key or anything like that, but there's just, it's flexible. It's like, it's elastic, right? And that's absolutely beautiful because it lulls you in. It makes you feel, it's congruent with the rest of the vibe of the music as well. The other thing I wanted to ask, because I don't know, again, I'm still very basic with these guys, but where are they from? Like, what's this? I mean, I don't think anyone knows who Vessel is, but are they like based in the UK or America or whatever? Because there's something about his accent when he sings. And again, sometimes when you're really closed mouth, you sort of, almost like Eddie Vedder and guys like that, there's an accent to the way they sing because of the way that everything is just really fallen, like their face is fallen down. It's sort of like singing with a bit of a frown and a little bit of and you bring it up. But there's that elasticity. But at the same time, I still detect sort of like a British accent. It reminds me, every time I hear it, I keep thinking of Gavin Rossdale from Bush, who sings in a relatively non-regionally specific, almost American accent, but you can still hear in certain consonants and stuff like that, there's the Britishness of it. And so that makes me wonder, or maybe like a different country, like maybe South America or something. I don't know. But there's definitely elements to it that just make me think this guy doesn't seem American to me. And I may be way off base, but that's what I suspect. That's all. Let's go back here a little bit more of that singing. That clean sound is beautiful on the guitar. There's that ambience again, right? Just one tom hit is all it takes. Or a kick drum. Night, you know. It's like you're floating.
Those eyes like fire. I'm a winged insect. You're a funeral pyre. Come now, bite through these wires. I'm a waking hell, and the gods grow tired. Reset my patient violence along both lines of a pathway higher. Grow back your sharpest teeth. You know my desire.
Oh, hang on, I gotta go back. I'm not gonna stop it. I'm gonna talk through it. We just heard that bit, but just listen to this. There's a growl sound, right? It's like this. It sounds animalistic. I don't know whether. I don't think that's a human voice. It could be. Who knows? But it's so far in the background. It doesn't. You can't tell. But just as this builds up, listen to the reverb saturation. It's sort of like the high mid sort of frequency range. And it just starts like just pushing against the boundaries of the space, right? And it's just all of the echo sort of reverberation. You can hear it there. Also, suddenly he's singing with a groove. You know? Just makes you sort of want to move. Maybe it's a low growl. Oh. See how you can't discern anything except for the main vocal. Everything just... Oh, come on! So cinematic. How do they find space in the mix for all of that chaos? Oh, the light and shade, man. That's where these guys really shine, eh?
Well, yeah, I spit blood when I wake up. Sink porcelain stain, choking up brain matter and makeup. Just 2 days since the mainframe went down and I'm still messed up. Room feels like a meat freezer, I dangling like cold cuts. Missed calls, answer phones from people I just don't trust. Mirror talk, fake love, but I'll take a pound of your flesh before you take a piece of my pay stub. White roses, black doves, godmother, rise up. I need you to see me for what I have become. My, those eyes like fire. I'm a winged.
God, it's beautiful, man. Wow.
Come now, bite through these wires. I'm a waking hell, and the gods grow tired. Reset my patient violence along both lines of a pathway higher. Grow back your sharpest teeth, you know my desire.
So much weight in the sound. It just feels like it's pressing down on you. Oh, that's nice. There's bird sounds again. That's cool.
I guess it goes to show, does it not, that we've no idea what we've got until we lose it. And no amount of love will keep it around if we don't choose it. And I don't know what's got its teeth in me, but I'm about to bite back in anger. No amount of self-absorbed fury will bring back the glory of innocence.
Still don't know how they find room in that mix for just drums as well. Like, so much low end. Oh,
Those eyes like fire, I'm a winged insect, perfume on fire. Come now, fight through these wires, I'm a waking hell and the gods grow tired. Reset my patient violence, along both lines of the pathway higher. Grow back your sharpest teeth, you know my desire.
that's cool. They're doing like chromatic sort of steps. Come on! Oh, the guitars, man. You guys, I mean, first of all, I was wondering if it was worth spending $900 on headphones, and that song is 100% cause to just believe that it was a good choice. Second of all, the thing about Sleep Token is every song is great value for money because you get 4 or 5 songs in one, you know. That was stellar. Somewhere around halfway point, they started to bring in some really sort of low end stuff, which you think, you know, towards the start, you're like, okay, there's a lot. The frequency range is full, but it wasn't. They somehow managed to sort of bring in all of this like low end, just ambient sounds, you know. And those hits that are like, it just makes it sound so cinematic, especially when you're coming into something like this where it just drops back to just a basic piano and some sounds. It's just beautifully composed, this whole thing. It just builds and falls and builds and falls, and then it crescendos at the end. I mean, Vessel's voice is so versatile as well. He's got just a beautiful range. Like those high notes that he gets, I mean, I'm not sure where he bottoms out. He might be a tenor. I don't know, but he certainly seems comfortable around mid-rangey sort of vocals. But then he somehow brings it up and then somehow goes into like a mix that's just, again, just notes above where you'd think you would sort of top out, which is just means it's just a great vocalist all around. But then the versatility to be able to bring in just really, really competent screams as well. So many layers, man. Wow. Yeah, okay. I mean, just listen to that sort of rolling bass through there. The other thing I really admire too is they understand guitar tones, because what the impetus is when you want something to sound really heavy, everybody cranks the gain right up. Gain in guitar language meaning the distortion level of the amp or whatever you're using to power the distortion. Sometimes people use pedals and stuff as well, but basically the overdrive. You're overdriving the front end of the amplifier to give you a sound that breaks up. It's actually not supposed to sound that way, but just by the nature of guitar amps and guitars, it sounds pleasant when you overdrive it, right? And so these people are like, a lot of people will go, we want it super heavy, so they just crank the gain to maximum, and you just end up with essentially just noise, right? It's just at that point. Good guitar tone people understand that when it comes to when you want something to sound really brutal and chunky, with gain, less is more. You've got to have it just enough so it breaks up enough to feel like it's heavy, but it not enough so that it loses all of the character and the growl of the guitar and the amplifier. And you can hear there, like, and the other thing that a lot of people confuse too is they hear a guitar sound and they're like, wow, that guitar is heavy. And this is why everybody wants to detune their guitars to C and lower, and sometimes drop A and things like that, because they think that that's how you get the low end sound. What a lot of people don't realize is that 80% of all good guitar tones is the bass guitar. And when you start to realize that, you can sort of arrange your parts to leverage the low end of the bass. Sometimes people put a little bit of overdrive on the bass as well, so it meshes with the guitars. But a lot of people don't realize that the guitar part of the overall signal is a very narrow band. It's mostly just this sort of sound. But then you put in like the under that, now suddenly it sounds like, and it's just all bass guitar. That's the trade secret. But if you dial back the gain a little bit and you allow the guitar to really express itself in a way that sounds gainy and distorted, but isn't as much as you might think, some of the best guitar tones in the world, like Eddie Van Halen's an example, and a few others, you'd be really surprised how little distortion there is on those tones. Same with guys like guitarists from Toto, Steve Lukather and things like that. There's definitely saturation and overdrive, but it's nowhere near as distorted as I think people think it is. But if you can listen to these guitar parts, like that sound in the tone, that's the bass guitar, just doing open strings, I guess. But the guitar and the bass is so in sync that it sounds legit. But also the guitar part is sort of around that sort of register. You can hear that there's a rumble and a growl in that sound as well, which makes it sound really sort of dirty, like a filthy sound. And if they'd gone too heavy-handed on the gain, then that you just have like, Everything about this is a masterpiece. I'm waffling because I'm noticing little things that I can connect to and explain. But at the end of the day, man, I was thinking after I heard sort of Chokehold and The Summoning that it's like, okay, that's their two good songs from the album. The rest of it's going to, hopefully not, but a lot of times you'll hear one or two good singles. The rest of it, you'll have a bunch of songs that are sort of middling, still fun and good songs. And then you'll have a bit of filler. But if this seems almost like they were holding back the knockout punch for the third release. You know, it may not be for everyone because it starts out kind of ambient and quiet. But this is one of those songs that if you let it live in you and you give it an opportunity, then it's just going to knock your socks off 100% of the time, at least to my ears anyway. I'm stoked. I'm stoked over this one. Hey, I was a bit apprehensive. I was like, what if it sucks though? You know? But yeah, the exact opposite is the case. So this was fun. Thanks again for your support, everybody. I got a lot of great comments on the other 2 Sleep Token songs and stuff like that. So just, if you want to support the channel, you can do that just by buying me a coffee or clicking super thanks, under the video, you know, however you want to do it. Also check out my merch site, primalchaos.com, Prymal. But yeah, the best way you can support it is just hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think about Sleep Token. Also, fill me in on some background that any of you internet sleuths have uncovered. Like, where are they from? Is there any sort of, you know, like conspiracy theories about who the members might be? Were they nobodies? Were they former members of other bands? Is there even a band? Like, in the back of my mind, I'm wondering if it's just Vessel and some session guys, you know? That's a possibility as well. And again, maybe all of this has come to light. I don't know, because I'm out of the loop. You got to fill me in, right? Thanks again, guys. Appreciate you stopping by. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.